You're listening to the LouddMouth Radio Network. It's so easy to get caught in the movement of everyday life and have things on your wish list and your to-do list to the point that you can feel almost overwhelmed. And in the midst of that, sometimes it's hard to find ways to prioritize your goals, but you got to do it. Now, I know you're probably thinking, Sonny, you're not saying anything I may have never heard. But maybe I'm just giving you a soft reminder or a moment to remember how important it is to prioritize your goals. Because they are your goals. And what makes the challenge sometimes where it can be sometimes feels like you just are in this moment of confliction or obstacles or feeling like you're distracted is because they're your goals and nobody really ever truly sees the eye of what you see. Anybody around you, friends, family, co-workers, business partners, whatever you got relationships with, they can only support you in whatever your ambitions are. But they can't steer you necessarily to what your goals are because you are the person that makes those, whatever they are, specific. So, truth is, you have to work towards keeping things like that in front of you. Because when I tell you, it's so easy for any and everything to come in between it, whether you're conscious of it or not. And typically, days like today, which is it is what it is. It's Monday, guys. You can already feel the pressure of the week ahead. You can already feel the pressure of what you know you gotta, establish or work towards just for your first part of your week. So to imagine sometimes keeping things like goals which may not be truly present and fully occupied at this moment can be challenging because it's not fully seen, it's not fully in action, it's not fully present yet. So it's something you're still working towards. So I just want to remind you today how important it is to prioritize your goals. Y'all know what it is. It's Monday. It's Sonny's Monday Motivation. Let's go. No matter the time or the season, we're open and available 24/7. Shouldn't your dealership be too? Carumba.com, the convenient online used vehicle marketplace. Register your independent dealership now.
Greetings. My name is Eluth Espinoza, founder of Anthonie's Voice, an organization named after my grandson, Anthonie Brown. Anthonie was diagnosed with autism at the early age of 3 years old. He is currently 21 years of age and is still considered nonverbal. Our journey has been one of many challenges as well as unimagined rewards. This year, for Autism Awareness Day, April 2nd, we're proud to announce our community partnership of Anthonie's Voice and LouddMouthRadio.com. This month, Anthonie's Voice will have a 4-part series each Thursday of the month. Radio segments that will bring two communities together to discuss autism, share resources, highlight individuals on the spectrum, fundraisers, and so much more.
You're listening to the LouddMouth Radio Network. So it's by now, you already know where I'm going with this. I'm going to, hone right into what is the topic of discussion. I think the biggest thing is not necessarily the goals itself, but sometimes how we prioritize it. So where do we give it existence? Where do we shave time in the midst of everything that's going on in our life to make those things that only you know that you desire to have, be, and do to matter? Well, let's try maybe about 4 or 5 little tidbits. I ain't going to make this hard, and I'm not going to be too aggressive with you today. I'm just going to be very frank. So one, I'm sure that you may or may not have had an opportunity to hear someone say, you know what, write it down, which allows it to a lot of times make it happen. It is a true statement in logic with that. Writing things down allows you to take what's in your brain, what's been traveling back and forth between the atoms and molecules of your body that has formulated whatever this thing is that you desire. So it's moving around in your body and the brain, and then it makes its way to your hand, to the pen, and to the paper. And it just brings a life or essence to it that's not explainable other than the factor of doing that, writing it down. It becomes a mirrored image of what is in your brain cells and what is most likely coming from the stem of your heart into your mind to say, this is important and I see it for myself and I want it. So then when you're writing it down, it becomes another confirmation or another affirmation of what you've been thinking about is really something of substance, that it has had enough significance to where you desire for it to be real. So you give it a space, whether it's in a notepad. I use my iPhone quite a bit, logging so much because my brain has always got something going in it. So I ain't gonna lie, I use my notes constantly. I got so many things in there from so many times, and it's cool because there's times when I can go back and reference some of my talking points or thinking points. And 9 times out of 10, if it's still present in my brain and then it's something of reference that I've had it logged it down and it comes back to me, that means that it is something that I feel that has significance. And so then and therefore it gets an opportunity to come across again. And then it lets me know even more that, hey, I'm on to something. So this is something truly that I am really considering it. And then if I really take it into a bigger priority, it might even go into another planner or journal or something. But then I'll start making notes to what that statement or whatever that thought is, right? So the point of that is write it down. Secondly, you may have somebody that you beat things off of, an accountability partner or somebody that you feel safe enough to share things with. And I think that's important. I'm not saying you to drown anybody or tell everybody everything, but if something is significant enough for you and it matters enough to you, and it could be in its form where it's not all the way fully understood, but you know that you want this element of something to have existence in your pattern of your life. So you're able to put it into words and share it. I feel like that's okay. Not everything necessarily has to be spoken, but those things that are really impressing you enough, maybe you want to share it with someone that, number one, they could be safe to take it and hear it and know that they won't misuse or abuse the information that you provided to them, right? The other thing that I want you to consider is, maybe formulating it to a point of structure, because it could be anything. So I'm not going to be specific of one way, but maybe you take the time to invest in something that gives you, you can invest in something that maybe will help you to make a prototype or an example, a shell, a prototype. And if it's something that's maybe service driven or something that's less tangible than an object, then, maybe test drive it in some form or way and see what it could look like. And maybe it will allow you to have an opportunity to see how to develop it. So in other words, kind of put some thought to it and, carve out time in your week or maybe within your month to give so much time to whatever those things that you have on your list, to have uncensored and unrestricted concentration on it and nothing else distracting it to cause it to be not considered enough to be important enough to give it time. Because I promise you, it's so easy for your day-to-day life things to come in the way. Because, they're always at play. There's always going to be something that's going to be happening. There's always going to be a possibility of somebody wanting something from you or drawing your attention. And if you come from a family that's a busy and active family, or you have a lot of responsibilities already on you, I promise you, it can always almost seem like you're never going to get there because you're not giving it time. And it's up to you to make that a priority. So even in your journal or your phone or your calendar or your planner, maybe even put in a day and time that you're going to commit to that time period to give whatever it is that you want to identify as part of your goals list that time, and stick to it. Don't allow it to not exist. It has to exist. It has to exist just like all the other things that's going on in your life. And if you start to give it a little bit, I'm going to give you an example. I remember when I was working on my script, A Steel Gray, and, developing this project and developing the whole story and aspect. And I remember at first my struggle was writing, taking the time to sit down and write. And then even in my writing, I wasn't sure how I wanted to approach it. Did I want to start with my novel first? Did I want to start with a script that was for a web series first? Or did I want to go straight for a feature film? And so it was all these different avenues of what could be. And I spent a lot of time just trying to develop characters and storylines and essences and people, places, and things that existed in this thing. And so I had to make a decision to make Steel Gray come to life, which was my character. And what that meant, and what was her underline, and what did that look like. And so I started writing down these names and things and places and aspects of what this character's existence meant. And then that led me to develop more characters and more names and more storylines. And so I started writing. I did script form, I did a novel form, I did short story form, because I still was not sure how I wanted to approach that project at first. And a lot of that decision was based on the real aspect of how could I finance it? What would be the best way for me to bring it forward and bring it to life? So eventually I ended up writing a short form of the stories, which is still an active concept. I copyrighted that content. And then I went to an element of saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to just go for the script and start with a web series. I believe I'll have a better chance at getting that movement and getting it going. And we're talking about years, guys. I'm talking about straight up, I think 2012, 2013, formulated the idea, came up with the name, wrote it. And, I did not shoot a real scene in these 2 episodes, which I launched and released, did not happen till 2016. So just that time of development and back and forth and taking time to write, hearing bits and pieces and, rewrites and script edits and story edits and character ads. And it's still to this day a project that I go back to and add things to and pull things away from it. So it took me to be active in what my goals look like in order to even get them to move forward. So this is why I mentioned the elements of the things that I've been saying to you, because it's so easy to get distracted and not really know what to do or how to get it going at times. And I'm going to tell you that's a real thing, because sometimes you haven't really thought it through and you haven't figured out what that may need to look like. But that doesn't mean that you can't take what you have and make it into some type of substance, because you can. And I promise you, sometimes it never is always exactly what you start with. It can move and ebb and flow in different ways. And that's part of the creative process. That's part of the building process of whatever it is that you desire. And that's that birthing form that's happening. And it's okay. As long as you're being active and doing something, that's what matters. The other thing that I think, lastly, that I'm going to speak on is allowing it to get to a point of existence and really starting it or doing it. And even if it doesn't come out to be exactly what you wanted, still see it through. And in seeing it through, you're achieving what was impossible to a possible. You're making something happen from something that we're all creators. We're all creators. So you're giving yourself another essence of yourself into another form. And so it's growth. So overall, if you can take these things, just these few things, and drive it into whatever it is that you want, it doesn't matter what it is. And I feel like you will find yourself growing and moving forward in a rapid way, because you're giving yourself the opportunity to make it count. And it's so important that we do have goals. I don't care what it is: weight loss, muscle gain, a car, a house, you want to move, you want to get married, you want to have kids, you want to date, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just make it make sense. Make it important enough to give it light. And I promise you, it will develop, so much more of aspects of yourself and give you an opportunity to see things progress. And it's a wonderful thing to get to a point you start to see your goals come to life and become accomplished. And even if they don't come out the way you wanted them, at least you gave it an opportunity to be something. And that's what matters most. All right, guys, that's all I got. I told you this was going to be short and sweet. And I want to just invite you to tune in. We got some great shows, great content, great guests. Season 10 on LouddMouth Radio Network. You're listening to the LouddMouth Radio Network. This episode is sponsored by LouddMouth.com, the #1 small business online network. We're putting the word out about small business. Put your business on the referral network online that wants to put the word out about you. $30.7 million small businesses in the U.S., creating 1.5 million jobs annually. Small business accounts for 64% of new job creation in the U.S. There's strength in numbers. No matter what we face, know that there's strength in us. Because of you, we're able, we're capable, we're resilient, and we are available, because we are small business, and together, we're the economy. You're listening to the LouddMouth Radio Network.